With only a few games left in the season, who could potentially be the most vulnerable? The top dogs know that night in and night out, you're going to have to get that dub, or else you might find yourself not the regular season champs. We're going to recap last night's matchups, preview tonight's matchups, and just again, reemphasize how hard is it to wear the ACC men's basketball crown? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Definitely have to earn your keep around here in the ACC, despite the fact that many people aren't feeling the love here when it comes to our conference. We still have some really good programs trying to finish out the season strong and potentially win the regular season championship. I'm Candace Cooper. This is Kenton Gibbs, and we're here from Locked On ACC Pod. We're talking through some of the great games that happened last night, as well as preview tonight's matchups, and who is just maybe most vulnerable when it comes to potentially winning or falling short of the ACC regular season championship. Kenton, how we feeling?
I feel great. I feel great. I feel like $1,000,000. I'm feeling good on this day. There was some good basketball last night. We got more basketball that should be good tonight. We'll see how this all goes down.
1,000%. Talking through these games, want to remind you, friends, that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. All right, Kenton, listen, if you're Miami, you know that potentially getting the regular season championship, dibble dabble, could have been, should have been, maybe not, right? Cool, whatever. You got to go into Blacksburg. You got to get the dub. They tripped up a little bit, but were able to pull out the 76-70 victory for the Canes, which all in all, that's all you need. All you need is the dub.
If you listened to me in Locked On ACC yesterday, you heard me say that Miami has to start the right way. Now, don't get me wrong. This is a Virginia Tech team that is surging. However, in the words of Jay-Z, you can try to change, but that's just the top layer. Homie, you was who you was when you got here. And the reality is Virginia Tech is who they are. Miami should have pounced early and put them out of their misery, but instead they let them hang around. They let them pitter-patter around. They let them keep it within arm's reach. And at the end, it took some good foul shooting. It took some great decisions. It took a lot of beating the press, which Miller and Wong excel at. But still, you didn't want to see that at the end of this game when it could have been we're kicking our feet up and got the walk-ons in, knocking down big buckets with, all of the bench going crazy about it.
Now, when we're assessing Miami, we're talking about tournaments. A lot of people are saying Miami's the best team. I don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all playing us. I don't know. I feel like they're just as vulnerable, if not the most vulnerable top team here in ACC looks. Like, we can argue it down. I have my opinion, but some people are saying, listen, Miami looks good on paper. Sometimes they fight hard, but I don't ultimately think that they're going to be the team that comes out on top, whether obviously not regular season, but for ACC tournament time.
So I said that these fans were nice not too long ago, and you told me that I was crazy, and we're going to put that to the test today because we're going to see if they jump me or not. I don't think that there is any top team that is not vulnerable. I don't think that we have a single team. I think we have a group of tier one teams, one team that's in between tier one and tier two, so a bunch of tier two teams, and then the rest who won't make the contract, who won't make the NCAA tournament. But to me, even amongst our tier one teams, I don't see any of them as invulnerable as I'd be shocked if they lost in the round of 32. I don't think we have a single team that is of that caliber at the moment.
Which is crazy because that should be like a positive, you would think, because everyone has to give their best any given night. And yet it feels like Joe Lunari, I was listening to you yesterday, that makes it almost worse for the ACC that there's so much love to go around in terms of everyone having opportunities to get dubs. It's crazy.
Well, let me explain this. The net is the worst ranking system I have ever heard of in my life, based upon this one sentence alone. And we'll talk about the actual game later. However, just talking about the rankings and how we view teams, how we view conferences. Fun fact about tonight's game in the PNC NC State, according to net ranking, benefits from losing this game more than they do from winning against Wake Forest. Because if they lose to Wake Forest, their win on the road at Wake Forest becomes a quad one win. What type of system is this?
The math doesn't in fact math.
I feel like a Jordan fan because I got to come out with the winning is all that matters. Winning is all that matters. What are we doing here? So with that being said, again, this conference right now, it is a good thing to me that you cannot sleep on any team in the conference. It's a great thing to me that Louisville is finally looking like an ACC basketball team. It's a good thing to me that you got to bring your big boy britches and be ready to play, even if you're playing Virginia Tech, even if you're playing Georgia Tech, like we'll get to in a minute. It does not matter to me what the outside is saying. Forget everybody but us.
Yeah.
The forget is normally substituted with a word that rhymes with buck. But the reality is, if you're the ACC right now, I don't care what anybody says about our net. I don't care what anybody says about who is or is not going to make the tournament. These teams are all vulnerable, sure. They have all shown weaknesses, sure. Absolutely. But again, look around the country. What team in the country do we have that's the Monstars that we look at and say, hey, ain't no way. Ain't no way you beating Houston.
I'm pretty sure Kansas struggled against TCU, but it could just be I don't know. I was just watching basketball.
Kansas struggled against NC State, and if you watch that game, the shots that their guards were hitting, they were hitting some shots where you just tip your cap and say, hey, if they will not hit that shot every night. You can count on it. You can book it. You can take it to FanDuel and put the house on it because you're going to make two houses back. Because they had problems against an NC State team that was not gelling the way they are now, that did not have DJ Burns scoring and producing the way he is now, that did not have Terquavion Smith kind of accepting a lesser role. So there is no team in the nation that I look at and I'm like, this team is head and shoulders above everybody else.
Yeah, Tennessee. You go ahead.
I'm just saying I see some really good teams, some really good tier 1 quality teams. I see about 5 of those. And then I see some tier 2 teams where I'm like, any night y'all could lose and I wouldn't be super shocked. Even with the tier 1 teams, I'm like, it would be an upset if y'all lost to certain teams, but it wouldn't kill me if y'all did. So I don't, our conference as a whole has teams who are vulnerable at the top. What conference doesn't?
And quiet as it's kept, there are some top teams in the top 2. Number Alabama, I'm looking at you to be exact, that have a lot of going on right now that y'all probably don't even deserve to be where you are, but I'm gonna leave that where it is.
They could shoot way too far.
Way too far. Okay. Really, Lord, rest in peace, Jamia. Now we're talking through Pitt and Georgia Tech. Pitt, another team that the vulnerability is definitely alive and well because they got a scare from Georgia Tech of all teams, 68-76 victory for the Panthers. However, you say to yourself, all right, Pitt, Federico, don't keep playing with y'all food because y'all gonna get caught up by the wrong team on the right day. And I just don't want that for a team that has 20 wins after 2015 to 2016 season. It's the first time it's been a minute since y'all been this good. Keep that momentum going. Don't get tripped up towards the end here.
It's so interesting to see this Pitt team kind of struggling to put Georgia Tech away at home.
Yeah.
Because again, what does Georgia Tech really have to play for?
Fight. They play for the fighting. They are the fighting passengers because I will say things didn't go their way and good teams make great shots and clutch moments. They weren't able to do that, but boy, they did not give up. They get that participation moral trophy for me.
And I understand that, but you need to be playing with a different level and sense of urgency if you're Pitt for this reason. Yeah. For this reason. We are seeing how people are talking about the ACC. And Pitt is not, and Pitt fans probably going to jump me about this one. Pitt is not the type of brand that is like, oh, we need them in the tournament. And we know if you don't have that big national brand that's like, oh, we need them in the tournament, they're basketball royalty. You put yourself at the mercy of the selection committee.
The Capel Crusaders are finna come for your head.
Hey, listen, I love the Capels. You know what I mean? No disrespect to Jeff or Jason. You know what I mean? Y'all do y'all thing.
Or Jim. Who knows?
Or he Jim, Josh, whoever y'all got going on over there. We ain't disrespecting no Capels on this show.
Period.
But very seriously, if you don't have that type of marquee, nor do you have a player that is a huge draw,
Yeah.
you need to be comfortably in. And right now,
Hold on now. Federico is a huge draw off the name alone. Federico. Like what? That's a huge draw. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm gonna tell you.
Okay,
You want to know? You want to know what a huge draw was?
Yeah.
You remember the year that Trae Young spent at Oklahoma when they were not good? They were objectively not good.
Yeah.
Somehow they found their way into the tournament, and everybody was shocked and confused. Their net rating's terrible. All the quads won lost. They haven't beat anybody good. I'll tell you why. They had a guy that was shooting 35-foot 3-pointers and averaging 7 or 8 assists a game.
But Nike Sabanda, I mean, the names alone for Pitt would get you in the tourney. Okay. All right.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Either way it goes, they got the dub. We'll leave it where it's at.
So, yeah, they like you said, they can't get complacent. There needs to be some urgency. There needs to be some a sense of, and this is not to say that every team in the ACC, if you're better than somebody, you need to dominate them. A win is a win. You'll take the win, but again, you need to, if you're these teams that are at the top, if you're these teams that are comfortably inside right now, all it takes is a 3-game skid for you to be right there on that bubble again.
North Carolina, I'm looking at you. All right, let's talk about FanDuel here because the midway point of the NBA season is here. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance to a bigger payout with same-game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're rocking and rolling with Kenton Gibbs of Locked On ACC here. We're talking about Wednesday night matchups now. And of course, there's some big ones because anybody can get it. Boston College, you got to go up to Chestnut Hill, Virginia, and you got to figure out how to get this dub against a very good home team playing. You have been struggling against good, mediocre teams. Let's call it what it is. It's been close. Your offense ain't hitting like it should have been hitting. Now, one thing about good teams, they figure out ways to win, which Virginia has done. They have good coaches. Great. Why do I have a bad feeling about tonight for Virginia?
You know, I
have a thing. I don't know.
I'm going to tell you this. Mm-hmm. Virginia's offense has this tendency to run very cold at times. Yep. Very, very cold.
Ice cold.
The only problem with that is this. The team that you're running cold against needs to be able to do 2 things in order to capitalize on that. Either score in high volumes where they get on a run and they just get hot as fish grease. They can't miss. Or score in winning time. Now, we looked at the Notre Dame game. Why did Notre Dame lose? Scoring in winning time, it just wasn't there. You look at some of the other games this year where Virginia was supposed to dominate, and it was more like a back and forth struggle for the win there, like against Louisville. What happened with Louisville? They just couldn't score in winning time. And yet, when you look at some of the games that they've lost, they lost to Virginia Tech. Why? Because in winning time, Virginia Tech's got some guys that they can make it happen. So I don't believe the Boston College quite has the horses in the stable to make it happen in winning time. I just don't. I think that they can be able to keep it close if Virginia has a bad offensive night, which as of late, you can kind of count on them having a bad offensive night fairly normally. But with that being said, there's a reason why Virginia is 9-point favorites in this game.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be a lot closer to. I don't know. I have a gut feeling.
Yeah, I don't know if they cover that spread. I don't know if they cover that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely not. All right, Syracuse and Clemson, a Clemson team that, hey, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. Syracuse, sometimes they're a decent team, sometimes they're a terrible team. You got to go to Clemson and figure out how to get a win. To me, it's for Syracuse battling for the NIT. Clemson, you're battling for positioning in the ACC tournament here, and you want to get into a good standing because you want to make a decent run.
You know, I'm going to tell you this.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson has to get it figured out immediately. Immediately. I want to all the things that they have in essence lost in this last little stretch here, where I believe they've gone, 1-4 in their last 5? Yeah, they're 1-4 in their last 5. Only win coming over Florida State. They have lost a firm seat in the tournament. They have lost control of the ACC because there was a point where they were the top dog. TDE, Top Dog Entertainment, was down there in Clemson, South Carolina.
Yeah.
They have lost the potential player of the year in Hunter Tyson. And I'm not saying that he's hurt or out for an extended period of time. What I'm saying is they no longer have – he's not going to be that with this. He's just not. Let's just be real about that. Mm-hmm. They say that, this team kind of limped into tournament time. This team is barely crawling in the tournament time. This team is screaming my leg like that random fish for SpongeBob into tournament time because they are having a tough time. You have got to get it turned around here. This has to be where it starts because if you look at Clemson's rest of the regular season schedule, after this game against Syracuse, I think the easiest game you have left is against Notre Dame at home. After this, against Syracuse, you got to come into the PNC, which has now come alive for NC State. Mm-hmm. Then you've got to go into Charlottesville, have fun with that one.
Right.
And then you've got Notre Dame and then the conference tournament. You do not want to be going in off L after L after L after L. You want to talk about what's bad for the conference? Them being this bad at the finish is terrible for the conference.
I agree. I think that Clemson, I want to believe, I always tried. Same way I like to believe in Virginia Tech. But y'all show me your colors and just finish strong. I think a 20-win season will be great for Clemson, great for the conference, and great to propel them into what will be a good postseason for them. But don't limp in to tournament time. Like don't be barely hanging on. Wake Forest and NC State. Let's jump to it. PNC, as you said, is rocking. Wake Forest is a in-state rival. They're trying to sweep the North Carolinas or the Carolinas for the year by beating all the bad boys this season, at least once. NC State, I'm feeling like it could be a good dub for you. And that's exciting for them. It's exciting to be the best. It's in a hoop state. It's exciting for the Pack to get that title.
In the words of Breakout Tees, it's feeling like 1983, baby. It's feeling like 83. But
speaking of which, they will be honoring the 83 team for the anniversary.
Not only will they be honoring the team for the anniversary, they'll also be wearing the throwbacks from that time. This is a game. Again, I talked about net and how losing technically benefits NC State in terms of net and whatnot. But this is a game that, for momentum's sake, forget the net. For momentum's sake.
Pride. For Pack pride.
Exactly. For Pack pride, you don't want to lose this game. Why don't you want to lose this game? Well, it's very simple. Yeah. NC State also does not have a very easy walk coming up to finish this season. After Wake Forest, you've got Clemson coming to the PNC, and then you're going to Cameron to finish off the regular season. You're going to be playing Duke at home, or on the road rather, on their senior night. The Cameron crazes will be as crazy as they've ever been, and we've seen some of those signs. We've seen some of the signs that they have.
But they're known to lose a senior night, so it's not really, I don't know. They're used to losing big moments. So I don't know. It's not gonna be too much of a craziness.
Well, I'm gonna say this. The road does not get easier, and you do not want to limp into the tournament.
The road doesn't get easier for anybody, like you mentioned. It doesn't get easier. Everybody can get it.
But that's why everybody, if you're supposed to be a serious team, you need to win here. But let me talk about Wake Forest for a second, because on their side of it, this is vitally important for y'all as well. This game for Wake Forest is one of their last opportunities to come up with a really big win in a really big way on the road here. If you look at Wake Forest schedule coming up for the rest of the season, you've got after NC State, you got Notre Dame, Boston College, Syracuse. So as much as we talk about people's roads getting harder, baby, you got the lollipop guild ahead of you.
But 20 wins is within reach for Wake Forest, but this would be a good one to get in the stamp on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna tell you what, for Clemson, 20 wins would not be enough. I know you said 20 wins. I know we're talking about Wake Forest, but you said earlier that Clemson getting to 20 wins would be big. 20 wins means they win one of these last 4. They're at 19 right now. Hunter Tyson, PJ Hall, and company. Don't y'all listen to Candace? Don't y'all?
I was trying to throw them a 20 win. I'm, low barometer standards, low standards, high expectation.
RIP to Michael Clark Duncan, but everybody in Clemson, South Carolina better be looking at Candace Cooper right now. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you put that evil on us. Because I'm telling you, if that Clemson team ends up a 20-win team, I don't know if they make the tournament. I really don't know. I'm being very serious. Because think about it this way. They have 19 right now. If they only get to 20, that means they win one of these last 4 and lose first round that they play in the tournament.
Stressful. I hear you. All right, last game to go over here. And I just, I need all thoughts and prayers. All hearts and minds have to agree. Because if there was ever a must-win game for the North Carolina Tar Heels to prevent them from getting into the NIT, and this is Mike Bray's this is his last time as a head coach playing North Carolina. I know they haven't really been the Fighting Braves. They might, for whatever reason, they could figure it out. Laszewski loves to hit a 3 at home. He loves to play. I'm a little frustrated by the Tar Heels. I don't even know what nice to say. It's just get the dub. On the road, they're not great. At home, they're not great. But if they were to lose tonight, there is no NCAA tournament in sight unless they get the automatic bid. That's a tall task for this team. This is beyond a man in the mirror conversation. This is beyond a come to Jesus. This is a beyond come to the carpet. You got to nut up or shut up. That's where we're at. Piss or get off the pot.
I want to just say this, okay? Because I'm going to do my good deed for the year. Say nice things.
They're going to win this game. Are you going to say they're going to win?
I'm going to say that North Carolina has the best player overall in this game, in Armando Bacot.
They've had the best player in a lot of games.
They have the best defender in this game, in Leaky Black. They have the best guards in this game. Kenton.
They've had a lot of the best in
games. And that's where I was going. There's been a situation where they've had that in many a game.
That's been most of the season.
That they've walked out of with an L. Uh-huh. Now, I don't know whether or not this North Carolina team can win this game, because I'm not sure what the constitution of this team is in terms of how serious do you take it when there could be nothing on the line. Mm-hmm. How serious do you take it when it's, hey, there's either way this goes, we're probably going NIT, because beating Notre Dame is what, a quad 3 or 4?
This is not a must win because it's like, this is a must win for pride. This is a must win for tourney's sake.
But they have to win. What is the constitution of this team when all you've got to battle for is pride?
But didn't you hear? Hubert Davis said it best. There's still a lot of season left. They still have opportunities. There's still a long road ahead of them.
Absolutely.
AKA, they got to get that automatic bid, because I think that's the only way. That's the only way.
Like you just talked about in the comments with Slam Tanner here, somebody got to get that automatic bid. Somebody got to get it. But here's the thing. Only one team can get it. We're talking about Clemson, who was in control of the conference for a good portion of the year, but is now 84th in net. We're talking about UNC, who everybody knows, man for man, when they walk on the court in this ACC, there are maybe 3 teams that can say, we stack up player for player. What about it? Maybe 3 teams. And with that being said, look at where they are. You've got a Virginia Tech team that's coming on late. You've got a Syracuse team that somehow always figures out.
You've got a Louisville team that's going to jack it up for somebody. Okay. Georgia Tech could jack it up for some. I think you can make a case where each of these programs could jack it up for somebody. And we have a lot of people who are in that bad boy, talking about NCAA tournament, We got some people that are banking on that auto bid that you only said there's one of. And we got some people that are very complacent with, you know what? Let's just get through the season. We had a good run. They are the jackpot people. They are the jackpot boys. Jack up boys. What are we going to call them? The jack things up boys.
Listen.
You feel what? You pick up what I'm putting down.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Okay.
But here's the thing, okay? The upset crew is not coming. Okay.
Yes, they are. Kenton.
Hear me out. Hear me out. If you're saying that they're going to jack it up for somebody, right?
Somebody.
Those are two of the worst teams in the conference, which means that they're not going to get a bye, which means they're going to probably play the best two teams that don't get a bye. Now, the top 4 teams in the conference get a bye, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that means Virginia, as it sits right now, that would be Virginia, Miami, Pitt, Clemson.
Virginia, a team that has been winning barely.
But hold on. This is what I'm saying. Those aren't the teams that they would have to jack it up for because they're not going to play them first.
Okay.
The first team that those teams will play would be NC State and Duke. Those are the 2 teams that you would likely get those 2 playing.
Is the ACC tournament in Cameron?
Now, let me tell you something. I want to follow you. I want to be there with you. Louisville in that interior defense has left a lot to be desired. And you think you're going to stop DJ Burns with that?
I was talking about Duke. You over here. I didn't say NC State was going to be the team.
If we talk about Duke, who's their leading scorer? Filipowski, a man who gets it done where? Where does Filipowski get it done? How tall is that man?
Georgia Tech could beat Duke. Georgia Tech could beat Duke.
Georgia Tech.
Notre Dame almost beat Duke.
Almost only counts in horseshoes and grenades.
But that because it was at home, and they still almost beat them at home, a place where they're supposed to be dominant. All I'm telling you is, all I'm leaving you with is all my cases. Everybody in the ACC can get got. That's all I'm saying. Every single person can get got by the people that have been surprisingly having bad seasons. Georgia Tech is going to get, that's what I feel. Somebody's going to get got.
I'll give you this.
Mm-hmm.
If you are Louisville,
mm-hmm.
you are praying to your lucky stars that Clemson stays where they are and that you end up playing Duke. And why do I say you want to play Duke instead of Clemson? It's not because Duke is a much worse team than Clemson. It's about the matchup.
Okay.
Louisville does not match up well.
No, Louisville don't match up with nobody. Like, come on now.
Hear me out. Louisville does not match up well at all. They've already beat Clemson at the end of the year. So they got a shot there. They got a shot. So I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Louisville needs to be praying that Clemson drops out into that territory. Or you could go with the idea that Louisville going to be pissed off next time they play them in terms of like, y'all might have knocked us out the tournament. So you might be praying that you don't got to see them again because you got them once. But who knows if you can get them twice because you ain't beat nobody twice all year. You ain't did it. So, you know.
They barely beat anybody once. Like,
that's what I'm saying. So you're looking at this. I'm looking at this situation and I'm not, if I'm Louisville, I'm saying hopefully Clemson stays right where they are. And hopefully we get Duke walking through that door. Hopefully that's who we get to see because, I'm not saying Louisville is good enough to be calling anybody out or searching anybody out, but you want to avoid a team that you might have ruined there because Clemson was not a team that people looked at like their tournament hopes are a joke until they lost to Louisville. At that point in time, it went from like, they're on the fringe, but they could maybe find their way into, no, that's not a serious team because of you. So,
they want to lick back. I get it.
They singing Because of You by Kelly Clarkson in the locker room. They never stand too close to the sidewalk because of what Louisville did to them, okay?
Period. I hear you. Now, as we get through the rest of the week, we want to encourage you guys to listen to Locked On College Basketball because they give you a real glimpse at what's going on around the country, and maybe they'll show a little more love to the ACC. Listen to yesterday's episode as we talk about net rankings and how Joe Lunardi is really trying to play our face. But more than that, as we mentioned, there are a lot of vulnerable teams. There's still a couple games left that can make or break regular season championship, tournament seedings, and all the fun things, and potentially NIT standings for, some of our top tier programs. But either way it goes, make sure you guys check out Locked On ACC Pod wherever you listen to podcasts. We are 73 subscribers away from 1,000. I don't know, Ken. I think we should have a party for 1,000. If it's giving party, giving celebration. It might even give a lucky fan wants to come up here and have a conversation with us. So if you can get us to 1,000, if you can share the love, maybe we'll have you on the show. Let's talk about it. We'll do that in the back room. We'll talk about that in the back. But for Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs, we hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Please, again, listen to our pod wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next time.